Why is it some millionaires don't appear to be wealthy at all? They may even seem poor. Instead of driving around in exotic cars and wearing designer clothes as you'd expect, they appear to be no better or worse than the average Joe. So how are these people spending their money if they're so wealthy? In this video, I show you how the rich spend their money and what proportion of their income gets spent on things like cars, homes, and vacations. If the average person adopted some of the spending patterns of millionaires, they could also become rich someday. But before we get started, welcome to Blue Chip Mindset, where we help people with money, personal finance, and investing. So please take a second to subscribe to the channel and like the video if you get some value from it. Over the course of 5 years, Thomas Corley, the author of Rich Habits, Poor Habits, studied millionaires. He sampled over 200 millionaires and examined their occupations, character attributes, and financial habits. They all had net liquid assets of at least $3.2 million, including cash, bank deposits, and investments like stocks and real estate. They also made at least $160,000 in gross income each year. According to Corley, there are typically 4 distinct categories of millionaires. The first one is the big company climber. This is a person who works for a large company and invests all of their time and effort into developing their professional network until they land an executive job with a high income. Then comes the virtuoso, who are among the best at what they do and are compensated well for their skill and knowledge. Formal education is a fundamental requirement for them, including higher degrees, frequently in law or medicine. After that comes the dreamer entrepreneur. It's a term used to describe those pursuing their aspirations, such as starting their own company or becoming an author, singer, or actor. Dreamers work with passion and love, and their efforts are rewarded with money. Because they are self-employed, they are distinct from other employees because their potential income is unrestricted. Last but not least is the saver investor. The saver investor prioritizes saving and investing consistently and constantly seeks clever ways to increase their wealth regardless of their day job, income level, credentials, or possibilities. Since they demonstrate that being a millionaire is possible for everyone, regardless of their line of work, this group of millionaires is the most relatable to the average person. Millionaires are typically thought of as a higher up in a Fortune 500 firm, or as someone who had a life-changing idea and was able to launch a hugely successful company. Most millionaires who fall into the saver investor group actually did it by simply being ordinary people. Since you don't need to be a genius, achieve advanced degrees, or put in unreasonable amounts of work, becoming a saver investor has no particular terms or conditions. They invest their money in tried and true investments with a track record of growth rather than taking significant risks. Anyone may start along the path to wealth, regardless of whether they have a high school diploma or come from a background of poverty. According to Corley, you should try to maintain your spending at 80% or less than your net pay to become a millionaire by belonging to the saver investor category. He discovered that investors who save money invest it religiously, aiming to save at least 20% or more of their income. Putting this thrifty mindset into practice and prioritizing investing is the most typical method used by the rich, and becoming a millionaire is a relatively straightforward procedure. So how do these investors and savers classify their spending as prudent and limit impulsive purchases? Housing should occupy 25% or less of your take-home earnings. The biggest expense for the majority of people is their home. This might be the case because people frequently purchase more home than they can afford, making their mortgages or rent unaffordable. They don't want to give up anything or have to live with roommates. As a result, they end up using most of their income to pay for a roof over their heads. Millionaires who invest wisely and conserve money do not overspend on this. Their housing expenses are kept at 25% or less of their monthly net salary. When you're happy with a tiny apartment or home, it can significantly lower your rent or mortgage, as well as utilities and other expenses that come with living in a bigger place. Also, willing to make compromises on location is a helpful quality in this case. They know the value of being economical when it comes to housing and understand that settling for something less than ideal would pay off, rather than insisting on living in a desirable area of the city. Overspending in this area makes aggressive saving and investing practically impossible. 15% or less of your net pay should go towards food and other essentials. This includes household food, personal care services, and other minor necessities that are often non-negotiable. Automobiles should get 5% or less of your net pay. You might be surprised to learn that, after housing, transportation is the second highest expense for the average household. Yet, millionaires keep their vehicle expenses to around 5% of their net income. This includes the cost of gasoline, insurance, tolls, parking, registration, and monthly auto payments. Even though millionaires occasionally drive high-end vehicles, this does not necessarily mean they spend a significant portion of their wealth on them. Did you know the top 3 car brands driven by millionaires are not Mercedes, BMW, or Cadillac? In fact, none of those 3 even fall into the top 5. The top 3 car brands driven by millionaires in order are Toyota, Honda, and Ford. Millionaires also don't spend more than 5% of their net pay on clothing. They don't splurge extravagantly on jewelry or high-end name-brand clothes. Yes, some incredibly wealthy people are the exception, but not the average millionaire. The majority of them dress in off-brand apparel. When it comes to taking vacations, not more than 5% of net income should be spent. Middle-class families frequently spend a lot of money on a yearly vacation. Whether it's a tropical cruise or a trip to Disney World, these are pricey for the typical household. Millionaires who invest in their savings spend less than 5% of their net income on vacations. Although they don't deprive themselves of travel and leisure, they take small, affordable vacations rather than expensive ones. So how does this compare to a family that spends $5,000, $10,000, or $15,000 on a vacation, which is significantly above their financial tolerance? Entertainment should be at most 10% of net pay. This includes bars, restaurants, streaming services, music, and movies. These expenditures are necessary for a lavish lifestyle, but the feeling you get from them is fleeting and not particularly memorable. So how can the average person save at least 20% of their income for the future? Let's imagine your annual income is a modest $50,000. By learning basic techniques to cut traditionally high budget lines and gradually increase your income, you could easily save 20% of your take-home salary, or about $750 each month, which you could put towards savings or investing. Apart from all these, you need to maintain an emergency fund. Millionaires always have an emergency fund for contingencies. An emergency fund is a collection of cash that you can use immediately to cover unforeseen costs. According to most financial gurus, you should keep 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses aside in case of emergencies. However, the exact amount you decide to save will depend on your income and degree of comfort. Where you save is more crucial than how much you save. You should store your emergency fund in an easily accessible savings account that is not subject to the stock market's ups and downs, while consistently earning the maximum rate of return. In today's low interest rate climate, finding a decent return for these emergency funds and conventional savings accounts can be challenging. Corley advises everyone to pursue a more successful, layered plan as a result when determining where to invest their savings. Tier 1, in a basic money market or high-yield savings account. Tier 2, in a portfolio of ETFs that invests in assets with short maturities. Financial counselors note that although these can fluctuate in value, they usually offer a greater interest than savings accounts. Their short-term maturity minimizes any possible volatility in values per share. Tier 3, investments in buffered ETFs. These buffered investments enable the possibility of higher returns linked to a market index like the S&P 500 or the Nasdaq. They also provide some level of downside risk protection and are used by plenty of millionaire clients because it is unlikely they will need their reserve funds quickly. No matter how a millionaire is categorized, They all share similar financial personality traits. They are conscious of their spending habits and generally do not waste money. They prioritize quality and understand that being inexpensive does not equate to saving money. The bright side is that most people may quickly and easily adopt these spending habits by adjusting just a few things in their life. Good luck and happy investing. Hey, it looks like YouTube thinks this next video will change your life. Click on it and let's see if they're right.